They still are in the company. They're still touching other company systems. They still have an email from the company, and we have to lock down how they're accessing that email, because if we don't, they could grab stuff from that GFE device, put it through their email, and then pull it over to their personal cell phone. And now that CUI is out, unsecure, and unlocked.
Welcome to Trust Issue by BEMO, the podcast where we go beyond checkbox compliance and get real about security. In every episode, we will break down what's happening in the world of CMMC, cybersecurity, and GRC, straight from the people building, auditing, and living it. Real conversation about real security.
So we've got Raymond King here. He's the Senior Customer Success Manager. And the reason why we've invited him here is because he has a lot of experience with the BEMO customers of helping them become compliant, right? CMMC, SOC 2, ISO, all that stuff. So we really wanted to hear from him of like, what is a customer's kind of experience of getting compliant and secure for the very first time, and trying to understand like, what are sort of the hiccups? Like, what are some of the things that customers aren't really like thinking about when they get compliant? And now that you essentially are the person who is, let's say, guaranteeing the piece of paper. And so by doing so, there's a lot of things that we have to go do correctly to set up, and just trying to understand like what are, kind of like the voice of the customer almost. So you started at Microsoft. You were a government specialist within the SMB team living in DC. How did you even get on that team in the first place?
It was kind of stumbling into it, to be honest. I was brought out there to do community work. And then when I got out there, my boss told me that she hired me because in 1 year I was going to be the salesperson for the region, and that I had no choice in the matter. She just saw that was what I was good at. I honestly had no desire to be in that space, but the more I learned about the complexities of working with those customers, the more I learned about their needs and what it meant to transform their businesses, I got more and more interested in it. And then she offered me almost a year to the day that sales job, and I took it right away. And it was really interesting because at the time there was no real regulations that impacted like the subs, so the subsidiaries of the primes and stuff. And like they really weren't being bound by a lot of regulations. Sure, there's FINRA and HIPAA and GDPR, but like nothing cybersecurity related. And where I was literally across the street from the Pentagon. And because it was a major metro stop, we had a lot of federal employees that would come in and hang out and look at computers, get their devices fixed. And we started talking to them. They kept saying, no, it's coming. There's regulations in the works. Like, it's coming. And the business, this is probably 2016, 2017. And the businesses that were going to be impacted by it were like, no, they're never going to do this. This is silly. And even Microsoft was like, no, there's no way they're going to do this to mom and pop shops. Like, there's no way they're going to put this burden on them. But the government kept telling us it's coming. And so we did our best to get in front of it and start trying to figure it out.
Cool. At the time, like, what were like SMBs just didn't have to do anything?
Not really. No, they had to meet the guidelines to win the contract in GSA and NASA SOUP, but there was no, we're coming in to really check your cybersecurity unless you were doing, like, I had one customer that built guidance systems for weapons, and they did have some regulations under ITAR and DFARS, but it's not really the cybersecurity regulations that we're seeing now.
Sure. And for a company like that, it would make sense that the government would really care because it's highly sensitive. But now, I was just talking to someone, a prospect the other day, where they said, "Hey, all I do is produce tents and my sleeping bags." He's like, "Am I really going to have to do this?" He's like, I don't have any CUI. I don't have any like federal contract information. Like, oh my God, like I create tents. Like what?
Yep.
Like what are?
Yep.
Why is this affecting me? Right?
Yep. We had one customer who was actually pretty smart, and he wanted to stay ahead of it. He literally sourced lumber. That's all he did. He sold wood to the government, and he got impacted by it. So,
wow, that's crazy.
Yep.
I guess maybe you kind of walk me through. I know, we obviously have a couple customers now who are going through CMMC right now. Kind of like what's their experience been like so far? Like what are customers telling you?
It's been interesting. We've got really like 2 or 3 different customer types that we see. We've got some that continue to say, because of the changes that have happened over the years and the delays in implementing CMMC, that they still don't firmly believe it until they see it in the contracts, which we've started to see. And so now people are starting to scramble and get caught up when they've delayed it. We've got other customers who have known it was coming, were pretty much ready for it. They just wanted to see the final rulings that came out last year. And as soon as that was out, they said, all right, let's go. It's time to do this. And we actually had to have one, or we've slowed them down because they moved too quickly. And we're like, and so we had to slow them a little bit, but we are now in auditing mode with them. So they're going to be ready to go.
Any dream customer of how you see.
The dream customer.
You will have one you can see. In 6 months, they will be, and it's a priority. And there's some, in 2 years, they will not be there. It's just, that's it. It's a reality. It's very funny to just,
What kind of businesses are these CMMC customers of yours at BEMO?
We have customers that train the military on using certain types of equipment. We've got customers that literally manage healthcare plans for a couple of Air Force bases. They were actually just down the street from me, so they just help manage healthcare. One that we're talking with right now, they actually build medical hardware. And there's a new customer that I'm talking with in a week that builds GPSs for animals. And they're being impacted. Yeah, I know. We're going to learn more about that later.
But again, in whatever CMMC or even SOC 2 or these customers, you can see it within 2 months. We kind of joke internally. We can already do the bet of which one they will be very fast. And so at the end, it's not BEMO or not BEMO. It's much how much do you want it, and how much it come from the top versus someone. Yeah, IT team, go run it. And when it's like, oh, IT team, go run it. Again, it's not only IT. Versus is a CEO that say, hey, HR team, ops team, everyone, you all work together and we need that. And so it's, it's just...
It's really that mindset of, are we just turning it on to meet the controls, or is this a core priority for a company? And is this part of our culture? And it makes a huge difference when it's part of the culture.
Right. I find it mostly interesting just how different these businesses are. I think when, a lot of people think CMMC, they think like I build weapons, or I'm like a city, right? Like I'm the city of Denver, or it's like all those kind of like really direct, like more like federal or state type things, and not like you build GPSs for animals that is somehow related to the government, or like I build tents and all that stuff.
Not even just the government, but like defense. And that's like, they fall in that space. And it's really interesting because we're also seeing a lot of companies that took on contracts with other companies now, and they're being told, hey, you got to get with this because so they would be building a piece of software for a larger company. And so now they're saying, we didn't even know that they were selling this to the government, and now we have to do this as well. So
really,
wow.
You can see that how it's
going through the supply chain. Yeah, it's slowly propagating through the entire environment. Yeah.
And it impacts customers of all sizes. I mean, I've got one that's 3 people, literally 3 people, and they have to get level 2 qualified. So,
but what I also think very interesting at the end of the days, which I find sad, if you think 4 years, you were supposed to self-attest that your system was secure. And it's the same as, I always joke with the doctors with HIPAA. I am HIPAA compliant. We know from BEMO, once they come to us and we open the hood, none of them are HIPAA compliant, and none of them are far from CMMC being ready. So again, it's also a self-inflicted war. You self-regulated yourself. You don't play the game. Well, now I'm going to make you having to do it.
Yeah. I think the challenge with the self assessments, right, is that it is, let's call it a nice pat on the back. And ideally, if you're doing it correctly, then it's progress and you're getting closer to CMMC level 2. But if you're doing everything internally and like, let's say you don't even have an internal assessor and nobody else like is looking, if you're doing it incorrectly, you're actually still at 0.0, right? But you think you've done a lot of progress, but you actually didn't. You haven't verified. You just went through a spreadsheet and you said, oh, yes, I do this. Yes, I do that. And you called it a day, right?
I can see it on our side with customers. Well, I will give you the pub, it will be for that. The CEO said, hey, are we pas compliant? I went, yeah, we are. The IT guy, yeah, we are. Okay, from an IT, I meet everything. Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
And
it's surprising too. A lot of the time, I think customers will go and they'll buy a solution. So they'll say, we bought E5, Microsoft 365 E5. We're compliant. They didn't go and turn everything on. They didn't connect everything. They didn't actually watch what's happening. And they just said, well, we purchased it. That makes us compliant, right?
Raymond, it was even better. Brandon and I had a pre-sales call with a customer that said, we've gone to you because we are SOC 2 compliant. Okay, you're SOC 2 compliant. And then you ask, oh, so who is your assessor? What do you mean an assessor? What you didn't do, who checked? Oh, no, I use Drata. You use Drata? Oh, yeah, that's it. So, no, and then you go back with them and you realize
You're not SOC 2 compliant. You're not SOC. You bought a GRC platform.
Yep.
That can help you get to SOC 2, but they were completely under the impression that they were SOC 2 compliant. And they were telling their customers too that they were SOC 2, and it's like, oh my God.
So, and you're on the call, there's the IT guy and the CEO, and the CEO kind of just realizing, telling the IT guy, BEMO is telling us we are not compliant. So we are not. Are we or are we not? And of course, and then the IT guy say, no, we are not. And it became you could see the face just,
Okay, cool. Well, tell me, you have the first, couple customers that are getting through the CMMC level 2 audit, like right now. What is an audit experience like? How long is it? Like, how many people are involved? What do people ask for?
So it's taken for the one that's really, really on top of it. It's taken us about 18 months from start to get to this point. We're in their self-assessment now. That's going to take several weeks to go through because we're going to have to gather evidence and upload evidence and make sure that we're checking everything, make sure that we're maintaining their compliance as well, because you can't just check it that one time. You've got to maintain it. Once we get into their second audit, I mean, we're still a 4 to 6 month process, depending on when we can get in line. So the first piece is you got to get your self-attestation done. And now what we're seeing is that contracts have started to include language that says, if you're bidding on it, you have to self-attest. You then have to put a plan of action in place for everything that you're missing along with your timeline. And then if you win this contract, you have to go into the assessment immediately. You have to get your certification. Yep. They're saying now you got to be it if you win this contract. And with the flood of people, I mean, there's months waiting just to get on the calendar. And then if a customer is really, really good and they're using a GRC, we're hearing around 6 weeks just to go through the assessment and then another month or longer to write the report.
Okay.
Wow. So, and that's with a customer that's really on top of it.
That's really
responds
big.
immediately has, yeah.
Right.
So,
what happens during that 6 weeks though? Like,
the first thing is, at least the way we'll operate is we'll stand up their audit hub and their GRC because we use the GRC, which makes it a lot easier. And then we start to answer questions if they have additional questions around the evidence that they're needing. So let's say there's a question around the system diagram that we put in place. We'll have to go get new evidence and upload it and share it with them. So it's a back and forth process. They'll dig in and they'll look at a policy around how employees access their devices. And maybe there's a discrepancy between that and a control. And we have to explain why that's that way. Or we have a specific user type that we configure for users that use GFEs. And so I'm sure there's questions around those users on a GFE, a government furnished laptop that access CUI, and are they compliant without having their own corporate device, or are they compliant accessing this? How are we locking down their identity? Like, we're going to be talking through a lot of that with the assessors.
That's actually, I like that you bring that up because that's actually something that comes up quite a bit where there's a lot of people that I talk to where, let's say there are 100 employees, but 80 of the employees will work from government issued devices. And so they're all under the impression, or at least they come to us and say, oh, the scope is for 20 users. Those 80 users don't count because we don't even give them laptops or anything. Is that true? Like, how does, like,
because they still are in the company. They're still touching other company systems. They still have an email from the company, and we have to lock down how they're accessing that email, because if we don't, they could grab stuff from that GFE device, put it through their email, and then pull it over to their personal cell phone. And now that CUI is out and unsecure and unlocked. And so now we've allowed a security gap. We've got to be able to make sure that they're not, taking screenshots. We've got to really lock everything down to make sure we're meeting the controls. We won't touch the hardware controls because that's the federal government doing that piece, but we've got to secure the user and the identity. And that's honestly the biggest point for any company is identity and user are your biggest security risks, like, period. And so we've got to make sure we handle that.
Right. So in this case, because that seems like a really common setup for these DoD contractors. So in that case, like, there's no Intune. Because you can't enroll the devices because there's the federal government's devices, but you're doing things like conditional access. You're doing like Defender for Office 365 and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. Exactly. Mobile application management, identity management. Right. So,
wow. Okay. Having had customers go through both like SOC 2 and then now they're going through CMMC, do you see any big differences?
SOC's easy by comparison.
Oh, really?
SOC is easy. So SOC is a lot of, we stand up the technology controls. And there are some policies that we write around access and remediation and things. The SOC audit is a lot faster. The first one is confirming that we stood everything up. And then there's 90 days of monitoring that just says, did you actually maintain
the type
this?
2, right?
Yep. And then we do a tabletop exercise to go through like a breach response or an incident response and show how it works with us and the customer. We'll do penetration testing, and then you get your report, and then you just have to maintain it. With CMMC, you have to do your self-attestation, then you have to go through and do monitoring and everything to get to the second assessment. You have, with SOC, you have annual assessments. With CMMC, you have an internal attestation every year, and then you have to do the external big audit every 3 years. The cost is wildly different. SOC, for like $15,000 for a type 2 audit versus $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 for a CMMC level 2 audit. And then with SOC, really, you just need to maintain it. You need to do your annual penetration testing, your annual tabletop exercises, and get your assessment done. With CMMC, we're going to be meeting with customers every month. We're going to be reviewing their stances. We're going to be reviewing if a control fell out of compliance and what happened, and creating the plan and writing what happened during that time. We are on top of all of their policies in a way that we don't have to have that level of detail with SOC. It's just a lot more rigorous. And then there's also, you have your monthly meeting of compliance where you do security reviews, and then you have quarterly reviews where you review everything.
Is that required by the framework?
Yes,
is that like,
yes.
Wow.
We legally have to do those meetings. So,
wow. So yeah, it's just a lot more work. There's a lot more proof.
Yep.
More proof.
Exactly.
A lot more proof. Okay. And then tell me about like these like scores.
One thing I would like to add, I think it's what people also don't realize. For whatever framework, they just see compliance as, I have a piece of paper. Oh, I'm compliant. This is almost the easiest, is to become compliant. You have to remain. So again, for people, is you will have to do stuff every month, every quarter, every year. So it's not just that, I'm my paper and it's over. So I think it's
what kind of, with CMMC, what are some of those reoccurring like things that need to be done in order like to maintain the certification?
Yeah. So like I said, every month we have to do a security and compliance review. And so we have to have a team on their side and a team on our side where we get together, and we're going to have to review anytime a control fell out of compliance. We're going to have to review if there's been changes to the regulations, because it is an ever evolving thing, and how we adapted to that. We're going to have to double check that all of the employees have continued to maintain their policies and that nobody's falling outside of a policy. We have to go and review this every month. And my understanding is we'll also have to create action items to continue to improve security that we follow up on each month as well. So,
well, think of it, Brandon, from an IT perspective. You have the monthly review of the IT. So again, and any issue has to be in a ticketing system. So again, you can see, no problem. It shows you do your review. You find stuff against, like, there's no IT team in the planet that there's nothing to do better. So this is from an IT. And then from a compliance, you do the same exercise against every single policy. Okay, let's take the password policy. Go make sure that what you say in your policy, how many characters, all of that, are you applying it? So go through the system and yes, it's applied this policy. We are good. Oh, this one we have a problem with an encryption policy. This is the issue. Okay, so again, you open a ticket and it shows that So it's so ongoing review both sides in parallel. So it's not just
Right. Tell me about this, like the process of like the self-attestation, and then there's like a score involved that basically gets uploaded online for everybody to see. Tell me more about like what is that?
So right now, with what we're seeing is that you self-attest. So you go and you look at the required controls, you look at the policies, and you are saying, yes, I'm doing these things. And in some cases, you're uploading the evidence that, yes, you're doing these things. You have like your policies in place. You have put the technology in place. And then you get your SPRS score, and that tells you how close you are.
What is that?
So got to remember the acronym.
Yeah, because we just did one yesterday for a customer that became a CMMC Level 1. So again, we just
it's your supplier performance risk system score.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And so it's
what is that scored out of? Is it like an
A,
B, C? Is it a number?
Against the control.
What is it?
So for level 1, you have to have there's 15 controls that you need to prove that you have.
Sure.
And you upload.
Okay.
So again, this is and when you pass after. The 110 will be against all the controls,
Right.
So
110 will be against for CMMC level 2.
For step 2, exactly.
Right. So you go from 15 controls to 15 to 110.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And are the controls in the 15 like a lot easier? They happen to be maybe the easier controls compared to the other ones?
They are more pure IT to start with again. So in the first one, there is no non-IT. Is how I look at it. Okay, it's really an IT perspective,
And like, what happens with this score?
No, it's
nothing.
I think you go. So if it's below, if at the end of the day for level 2, if you cannot be below 80. Okay, so you have to be. Also, again, if you are below that number, no, you will not. And after that, again, when you do you upload the numbers, and after that, depending on where you will have 30 days. To kind of remediate, and so it's all where are you far from the process and how.
Yeah. So can you fail a CMMC level 2 audit? Like, you can? Okay, so you can fail an audit. So you could potentially spend all that money and then have them say like, "Come again next year."
Yeah, it's not, and it's why it's not a guarantee. So again. We BEMO, we work with you to avoid that. There is no one should tell you, if someone said, I guarantee you the score, it's impossible because it depends on you. It depends on many, many things. So it's just, if someone said, I guarantee with me, you pass, the word guarantees, forget about it.
It's a scary word that you don't want to hear.
Okay. Okay. So essentially the idea is that you have to go through this internal assessment, right? First,
the internal assessment by someone. So it could be if you're a bigger company, someone in your company doing it, but is not part of your team, initiative. Or, for BEMO, because we do small business, none of them can do it. So you bring a third-party person that the audit, that is not the person, that is not part of the C3PO that will do your final audit. So it's two separate entities. So you do prep you, and once you have that and the internal audit say go, then you start the external
So
audit.
ideally, you shouldn't be failing because there's a lot of different milestones kind of along the way.
Yeah, at least, again, if I take at BEMO, we show you your Microsoft Secure Score. You have a Vanta Drata that will show you, how you are involving. Then you have a third-party assessor. Again, so again, you should not, if you do all the steps that we do, you should not be failing. It's why you, yeah.
When you're working with these customers, are any of them like, oh wow, I could have done this myself, or like, what's their like feedback around like, oh man, like, do they think it's easy? Do they think it's easy? And then you start working with them, and they're like, oh my god, I'm so happy.
We joke internally. We have customers that think that they are smarter than they are, and there is some that they underestimate themselves. So there is a customer, I could have done it without, and you're like, well, you didn't realize we did X, Y, Z for you. You wouldn't have known that. So because again, now they go, and you have some that like, hey, if they could do a second one on their own, and they would be like, oh, I could not do it without BEMO. So again, it's more, again, it's what is the culture we have in front of us from the company culture? Would you agree, Raymond?
Yeah, one of the examples I've got is the customer, they actually just let this person go because he was doing it through Excel. And he was just saying, yes, like, I think this matches. I think we got it. I think we're good. And then they were acquired, and the parent company saw it and said, you are nowhere near where we need you to be. And so I got a contact from the new CEO saying he's gone. We're doing this differently. So it's a lot of people will say we can do this, we can handle it, but then when they really get into the details, they're missing a lot.
Right. Essentially, as soon as someone externally is like trying to verify, they're like, guys, what are you doing?
And also, I will add again, SOC 2 ISO that has been done forever. We have done many. Okay, CMMC. We have 4 companies going through it right now. Okay, we even us BEMO we learn with every single customers. I'm sure our C3PO are learning as well.
Also,
yeah. You have now 1,000 companies in the whole US doing it. So it's not like, again, it's someone who will say, oh, we have so much experience. Bullshit.
Yeah. It's new it's basically new for everybody.
I mean, the final rules have been out for what, 4 months?
Yeah.
So
I think it's kind of, again, if I think of us, we have experience, at least we do a lot of, compliance work. So, again, it's different control. We go through training, and I imagine when we are done with those 4-1 and we'll have, 10 more in a queue being one, you learn from each. From us is we learn from one. Let's tweak the process for next, So this is where,
Right. The MSPs, all the MSSPs are doing it for the first time. The customers are going it for the first time. The internal assessors are doing it for the first time.
Exactly.
For the first time, right?
Yep.
So it's not like you can say, whoa, can you find companies who have done more than us?
Right.
There's not that many.
Yeah. And even from like a hiring perspective, no one has it on their resume that's like, I've been through CMMC compliance before on my resume. I'll help you like do it too. And you're like, all right, well, nobody's done it. So you can't even hire someone, right? Okay. Can you self-attest for CMMC level 2 or is it only for level 1?
You self-attest for level 1, and for level 2, you self-attest to show how far you are along the process. And then you put a plan of action in place, and you have to upload a documented plan of action to meet the rest of the controls. And then you get to do your internal assessment, whether it's that bigger organization that has somebody that's not part of the team, or you bring in somebody to do that assessment.
And it's only until this November.
Only until this November. What happens after November?
After that, you cannot self-attest level 2.
Okay.
So this is why. So and what's going to happen anyway is, I'm sure some company will say, show me a true. I mean, I will not go for people again. You can do it, but do the self-attest level 2. Yeah, people are doing that because they will save the money on the C3PO. So you're kind of saving yourself maybe a year, but at the end of the day, you may have to do it. It's
right. And then even if you win the contract,
because for me, after that, you have to redo a full audit every 3 years. Okay. So at the end, you self-attest, you do it correctly now. You will do your internal audit for the next 2 years.
Right.
So you just
otherwise you're just kicking the can down the road.
You're just kicking the can, exactly.
Yeah. Like you're gonna have to do it anyway, so you might as well just get started.
So it's kind of and because this is I'm making it up completely, but now you have a competitor. You are bidding, and it's 2 of you. One is already fully, and you are self-attest and.
Exactly.
Who am I going to go for? The one that is,
Sure. The competitive advantage, right?
Yes.
Especially right now, it's probably a competitive advantage now. Like you might as well, like, obviously it's expensive and it takes a lot of resources and stuff, but there is a point to be made that if there's only 1,000 organizations that have this certification, if you go do it now, everybody else is taking their time, you potentially have the opportunity to grow a lot faster as a company.
And bid against the others. And maybe your competitor will not be there. So at one point, I can imagine some agency will say, we only take people fully again.
When I was at Microsoft and we were analyzing the market size, 70% of businesses that were impacted fell into small and medium space. And we were estimating around 320,000 companies that had to become CMMC compliant at the time that were in that small and medium space. So yeah, if you get it done now, you've got a serious advantage.
So what's going to happen? I mean, obviously you guys don't know, but like, there's about 1,000-ish right now that have the certification. Maybe by the end of the year, there'll be somewhere between 3 to 5K, right?
I will think it will accelerate, but maybe...
You think it will accelerate?
Yeah, I think my bet, if I had to do a bet today, maybe up to 10,000.
Okay.
But 3 out of 320,000, I mean.
Yeah, it's still a tiny number, right? It's a tiny number. So like what happens next year? Like, do you think the federal government kind of also kicks the can down the road and said, oh, not enough of you? Do they start saying, okay, well, you're going to have an extra year to go get this done? Like, what do you think happens?
If I had to guess, they're going to award more to the companies that have this done. They're going to be much more likely to award it. And they may continue to do what they're doing now, which is you show us that you're working on it, show us your plan, give us a timeline, and we might work with you on that. But I don't see them extending deadlines again. They've done it too much and for too long. And now with AI and the way things are accelerating, we can't extend this any further.
Right. Right. There needs to be consequences, basically.
Yeah.
So plus imagine now, again, and maybe they will because we know, but just imagine I'm someone, I was proactive, I am working my butt off, I spend the money, I am CMMC level 2. And now if the government say, oh, I'm giving you 2 more years, you're going to be like, what the heck?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't.
Or if you start awarding contracts to the people not doing it, you're like, hey, I just had to do all this work. You're giving it to the other guy now, like who didn't even do all this work. Yeah, for sure. There'd be a lot of backlash from that, right?
The way I also think is you were supposed
to be doing this whole time.
You were supposed to do it. I mean, it's not so like people like it should be easy for you to pass it because at the end you were supposed to be compliant already.
DFARS has been around for a long time.
Yes.
I don't know if we're quite at 10 years, but a long time. And CMMC is essentially simply the certification that you've been doing this the entire time. But everybody's misconstruing it to, oh, I have to go do this new compliance thing. Right?
Yeah. No, so yes, you have to spend money you were not doing before. Someone's going to check. But it should be between quotes. A checkbox for you because you have it, so you should have your policy. You should have, it's just
it's proving. It shouldn't be a lot of work.
It shouldn't be a lot of work.
Yeah, but it is a lot of work because probably the federal government has finally figured out that like if I don't mandate this, nobody's going to get it done.
And we see with again customers that we manage that were DFAR ready.
Yeah,
they are not. So I mean, what I have learned is now, for all my years, BEMO is I don't trust a self-attest.
Yeah,
that's it.
You just don't.
You don't.
Yeah, any type of framework that is self-attested is not real. It's not
real. It's not real.
Yeah. Okay, well, tell me more about. You were mentioning that some of the customers are more successful than others, and a lot of it has to do with culture. What specifically is happening at those companies that is different from the ones that take longer? Is it like they have a committee internally that is like shows up on every call? Like what's kind of the difference in the vibe between the customers?
So it doesn't necessarily have to be a committee. It's more of the company themselves. There's like, I was thinking about this in terms of like an accessibility thing. From one of the notes I had. And there's really 2 ways that companies look at it. One is like it's the checkbox and we're just turning on the controls, we're done. Yep. And that mentality is what ends up leading to a lot of gaps when we're going through this process. So they'll say, we've got the checkbox, and we'll get into the details and say, you got sub box A done of the full checkbox. Like you're missing C, D, E, and F, versus the organization who looks at it as it's a true security mindset and a true instead of we're just checking the box and we're saying we do this, it's how do we make security a part of what we do and make sure that we're secure in all ways that we operate and that we do it in a way that still enables our end users to do their work efficiently, effectively. And so like one of our organizations, they came into it and they've been doing, for example, like security awareness is just a core piece of it. And when we went to start doing their campaigns with them, they told us, make it as difficult as humanly possible. That's just part of who we are. And we caught a couple people that hadn't failed awareness campaigns in a while. They clicked on the phishing link and they came back and they said, man, you got me. That was great. Like, it's not a, oh crap, I have to go do a training. It's, oh, you got me. I'm good at this, but you got me. And so when everybody from the top to your end user is aware, is part of the security conversation, is keeps that as part of their job, it makes it a lot easier and a lot faster to get through it because they know that this needs to be done and they adopt it a lot faster.
And if I had to add, I can see is the company that from the top believe in security. It's like, if I take from BEMO, on one side, I enjoy having a third-party company, the assessor, come to us and try to poke our system. Again, for me, is that I can talk to my IT guy, will say, you are secure. Okay, great, well. And now someone from outside said, yes, you are, all this, whatever. Okay.
It feels a lot different. Yeah.
It's right.
I feel better.
Good. Yeah. And it's more, okay, if one day BEMO get hacked, I will say we have done everything we can from inside, outside to,
right.
Okay,
other people have verified that. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's why that it costs money. Yes, but I think it costs money to build trust, to show you are real with your customer. It's not, it's for us, it's not a checkbox, is we mean it. And,
right. So, right. The customers that are very slow to this, or have you ever had conversations with some customers where they're already managed by BEMO, right? We're doing their security or whatnot, and the conversations of going to CMMC come up, and they don't move forward. Like, what are those conversations like?
A lot of the time, it results in that customer saying they're going to do it themselves, and then they often reach out to me after that point, and they ask questions, and they're looking at it, and I'm like, you don't even have the capability to do what you're trying to do. Like, you're not even buying the security solution to meet the control that you want at this point. And we'll have these conversations ongoing.
Like they're not buying like G5, like M365 right. G5 yep. or whatever other government SKUs.
And they're like one of our customers told me that they just want to do a core set of users that's CMMC, but that's not the way it works. CMMC is the entire company.
Sure. They were saying we're just going to do it for these 4 people.
Mm-hmm, yep. And it's the entire company, but they're also trying to manage it on their own. And you can see it over the last year, the realization of coming from, I got this, to I am overwhelmed and I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this work. And it's just we want to do it as cheaply as possible. We wanted to do it just so we can maintain our contracts. And then realizing the actual work that is involved and how it's not just let me stand it up and get the certification. It is a daily ongoing thing to maintain. And then they don't have the bandwidth to do anything else.
Right. When I think if I look at the last 2-3 months, it's the first time we have that many potential customers that come to us that have tried. I bought my GRC. I've tried. It was not that before. Now everyone try on their own and they all come back.
Yes. The market, it's kind of interesting actually. The market is starting to move to the point where a lot of people have bought GRC platforms like Drata or Vanta before. And there's a subset there. Many of them are successful, right? But there's a certain subset of people. There's actually a large subset of people that have bought the GRC platforms and churned because they're like, oh my God, I got the GRC platform thinking I was going to get compliant. And then they had it for 6-8 months and they weren't able to get compliant. And then now they come back to us and they say, guys, we really need help.
Yeah. The other piece that I'm seeing is they'll try it and then they'll realize the work and the cost. And we've actually seen a couple of customers shift back and just go to commercial. They're like, "This, we just can't do this. Like we're done. Like we're not even going to bother with this anymore because it's just too much."
Like they're just not going to take on government contracts?
Yep. They completely remodeled their
really?
business and went straight to commercial after that. So
Really?
and actually the one that comes to mind, I started working with them in 2017 to get them ahead of this. And then last year they said, we can't, we're done. This is too much.
Is it because there wasn't enough revenue to justify the work? Like they weren't a fully like contractor business. They just happened to have one contract kind of thing?
Yep. They had that 60% commercial, 40% where they were winning these. And they said, oh, there's a lot of money in this space. Let's see if we can get there. And there's a lot of stability when you win your contracts, but the work to get from point A to point B was it was too much for them.
It's like, with our customer today, again, there's a difference between I only work for the government. We say, hey, go to a GCC. Okay. Or some customer, I am pretty much only commercial and I would like to start in
these 4 or 5 users.
Yeah. Now I'm going, in that case, okay, maybe for that, go put an enclave, don't move the whole company. So again, you have those conversations. It don't depend on what your business, where you are going, Yeah, I see. There's obviously Prevail is like a huge piece of solution to. I think it works especially well with the people who are mostly commercial, or at least they're not they're not exclusively government, right? They are mostly commercial.
They're mostly commercial, right? Where they're like, oh, we need to do this, but I'm not gonna move my whole company 100 users to GCC. Whereas for the people that are like, I literally just build electronics for submarines. They're like, all right, well, this is all we do. So it makes sense to do that, right? So it is really interesting to see the different solutions popping up for even the different business types that do business with the government, and that, a solution like Prevail works really, really well for someone that is maybe, let's call it 50%, up to 50% government business. But as soon as the culture really sways to all governments, it's sort of just do the GCC.
Yeah, for me, I would go, if you're above 50%, you switch it.
Switch it.
But
yeah. Interesting.
If it's 5%, go to an enclave.
So what do people do in that instance? Do they simply buy an enclave, like a Prevail, and attach it to their Microsoft commercial tenant, or do they, or do you see that what they do is they just spin up a GCC tenant on the side, and they maintain 2 tenants?
It all depends. Because we have both cases. So there's the cases that I just want to try right now, and there is some no. We have a big bet. We are going to go government cloud. So they will even create a different GCC tenant. They will have 2 companies. So it's kind of 2 companies.
I mean, you were kind of laughing at that. Why do some people go with one solution? Why
a lot of it for me, from the conversation I have, it comes down to what their product is, what their solution is, and if they see that they're, Bruno put it in a great place of big bet. If they see what they're doing as okay, I know if we move this way and we go and we focus on government, we're going to do really well with this. I had a call this morning with a customer that does that. And we're in the middle of doing their GCC tenant, and we're setting it up, and we're getting security deployed, and we're testing it. And if it goes well, more and more of that company is going to shift over to that GCC tenant, and that's where they're going to exist.
Interesting.
So that's why I think, to anyone that will be listening to a call, there's not one size fits all. It's
there's a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different ways. It's how small are we? How big are we? How dedicated are we to doing government work? There's a lot of different strategies to how you do that. Do you find that do the auditors all know about these different solutions, and do they see them the same way? Do they ask more questions if it's one thing versus the other?
If you are 100% in GCC, you've done, and you have a consolidated platform. So we take our approach is very Microsoft focused. And even talking to GRC platforms, they're that's the way to go. It's the easiest of the platforms out there is Microsoft. The less of that grayness or ambiguity or the less tools involved, the easier it is to get through your audit when you are a commercial customer hosting an enclave and kind of have a bunch of different solutions together. You're going to have to provide a lot more evidence to say, yes, this is how we're protecting everything. So it takes a lot longer.
From our learning, working with multiple ones, we pretty much now have a better list of this one understand enclave, this one they don't, this that. So it's almost like, and we burn ourselves as well as, do you support the GRC platform? Because, and when you say you support it, does it mean that all the evidence is on the GRC platform, or I also have to put some here, we got burned a few times based on with customers. So again, now, make sure we ask that question to the next assessor, or, again, it's just, next is 3PA, if it's, CMMC. So.
Well, great. Well, thanks again so much, Raymond, for talking about all this. It's very interesting having the first couple go through CMMC right now. And I'm sure there's lots of people who are just very curious as to how much work is it really going to be? What am I going to have to do? It seems like even though people should be doing this year, so many people are at the very beginning on the education phase because there's not great communication from their contracts of whether contract language is going to change or not. And so they don't really know, should I be preparing for this? Like, I don't know. There's been no communication from our contracts that we're going to have to make this change or not, right? Yeah.
Well, I will say, so as a compliance nerd, I love to go and read FAR and DFARS, and et cetera. And if the FAR suggested rules from January are any indication, this is not going to stop at Department of Defense contracts. This is going to continue and expand.
It's going to expand.
Yep. So I think it's coming very quickly, and it's time to get on board with it. So
yep. Cool. Great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
That is another episode of Trust Issue. In this conversation, help you think differently about compliance, security, or trust. Share it to help someone who is still stuck in a checkbox mode. Each week, we will keep bringing you more episodes, resources, and real-world insight from the BEMO team. Wherever you are listening from, don't forget to rate the podcast and follow us to stay up to date on the latest development in the GRC space. Remember, compliance gets you certified, but real security, that earns trust. Thank you for listening.